Hello and welcome. Today, we are going to dive deep into the vibrant, super complex, and honestly, often misunderstood world of India's voluntary sector. We're going to peel back the layers on these organizations that are shaping communities all over the country. So let's just get right into it.
So, when you think of a nonprofit, what pops into your head? For a lot of people, it's a small group, maybe running a local charity. But what if I told you it's also one of the country's biggest economic engines? Now that question, it gets right to the heart of a huge misconception about this whole sector.
The reality is, it's not an either-or thing. In India, the voluntary sector is this dynamic force that has both the heart of a charity and the muscle of a major economic player. It's really the best of both worlds.
So, how did we get here? Let's take a look at how the role of these organizations has totally transformed over the years. From just filling in the gaps to actually driving growth.
If you look back, these groups were absolutely essential partners in building the nation. They were on the ground, delivering services like healthcare and education wherever government systems couldn't quite reach. They acted like a think tank, using solid research to help shape policy. And maybe most importantly, they worked right there in the communities, empowering marginalized people to understand and claim their rights.
But that's the old view, right? Today, the picture is so much bigger. This sector isn't just a gap filler anymore. It's exploded. It's a massive employer, providing jobs for millions of people and, believe it or not, making a really significant contribution to the country's GDP. Now, if you've ever tried to look into this world, you've probably been hit with this wave of acronyms. NGO, CSO, CBO. It can honestly feel like you're staring into a bowl of alphabet soup. So let's try and clear some of that up.
Okay, the key here is not to memorize every single one. That's not the point. The trick is to see the pattern. These terms, they actually describe what an organization does. Some are just general, like NGO. Others tell you about its specific function or its scale, from a local community-based organization, a CBO, to a massive, big international NGO, a bingo, or even its relationship with the government.
So, beyond all those acronyms, these organizations also have very distinct legal forms, and understanding these structures is really the next big step to figuring out how they all work. In India, you'll basically find 5 main types of nonprofits. But here is the most important distinction. Only the top 3, that's trusts, societies, and nonprofit companies, are legally set up for what is defined as a charitable purpose. Cooperatives and trade unions, they do operate on nonprofit principles, but their main goal is the betterment of their own members. And this brings us to a super important definition. Nonprofit doesn't actually mean no profit. These organizations can and often do make a surplus. The key is that they are not profit distributing. That means every single penny of surplus has to be reinvested back into the mission. It never gets paid out to owners or members.
Okay, so let's zoom in on those 3 core charitable forms. How are they really different from each other? We're going to put them side by side and see what makes each one tick.
But first, let's talk about what they all have in common. All 3 are independent of the state, they govern themselves with a board, they're not allowed to distribute profits, and their work is all about benefiting the public, not their own members. You could say this is their shared DNA.
So, when you actually put them next to each other, the differences really pop. Let's talk governance. A trust is run by trustees who have a very strict legal duty to protect its assets. A society is much more democratic. It's run by a committee that's been elected. Then there's membership. A trust serves the public, which is kind of vague, but a society has actual voting members who can demand accountability. And that leads to their key feature, right? For trusts, it's that protective duty. For societies, it's the power of the members to demand reports and keep leadership in check. The Section 8 company, though, it brings something totally different to the table.
And here it is, the big differentiator for a Section 8 company, limited liability. This is a concept they borrowed straight from the for-profit business world, and it's a total game changer. It means the personal assets of the directors are shielded from the company's debts. This encourages them to take risks and innovate without worrying about personal financial ruin. It's a huge reason why so many of the bigger nonprofits choose this structure. So all this diversity in how they're formed and what they do points to one big thing. The legal framework is anything but simple. There's no single rulebook for everyone.
This quote from our source material really says it all. Unlike in so many other sectors, there isn't one big law that governs all nonprofits in India. Every single type we've just talked about falls under different sets of regulations.
What this does is it creates a really complex patchwork of laws. You've got different rules at the national level and then different rules again at the state level.
It means the whole regulatory environment can change a lot depending on where an organization is registered and where it works.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. We've seen just how much diversity there is in function, in scale, in legal structure. So it kind of begs the question, right? In a sector that's this varied, is there really one best way to organize for social change? Or maybe its greatest strength is the very fact that there are so many different ways to make a difference. Something to think about.